Yes, friends, well, we all know where we are this afternoon, but we've got a very tasty exhibition we want to run in and try to capture some video of. Francis Picabia, Eternal Beginnings at Hauser and Wirth. Stay tuned. Thank you. Hello. So this is the 5th floor gallery. And I was up here last week, made a few clips, but I knew I had to come back to get a more in-depth view. Well, the title of the show is Eternal Beginnings, and I believe that this was first presented in Paris at the Hauser Wirth Gallery there earlier in the spring. This is titled Encirclement, 1950. It's oil on cardboard mounted on wood. (14 by 10). This is titled I Wonder, 1949, oil on cardboard. 29 by 20 and 5/8. Well, okay, the title, Eternal Beginnings, I think is kind of a poetic irony in that this is also a show of his late work. So by that I would guess pieces from 1946 until I believe he passed away in 1953. It's titled Friday. One of the things that I think is great, I love Picabia. I've covered several Picabia shows, but the great thing about this is there are a lot of pieces that I haven't seen in person before, like this one. This is 18 by 15 inches. And I've covered, at least a couple of shows up at the Michael Werner Gallery up on 77th Street in the old Leo Castelli space. This is titled Tuesday, which is nice. So I got Friday and Tuesday. It's also oil on canvas 38. No, 15 by 18. Well, I spoke with one of the people at the desk, and they said that I guess the show opened about a week ago, and that they actually had 3,000 people that showed up at the opening. And then I said, well, how's the turnout been on the regular days? He says, well, we get something like 800 people a day coming through. I guess I'm lucky there's not a lot of people in here today. It's titled Relief. This is 1951, Oil on Wood. Again, this is a piece that I've seen reproduced many times. I've probably got 5 or 6 Picabia catalogs, but I've never seen it in real life. I think a lot of people don't know that Picabia could be one of the most influential modern European artists on the whole New York art scene. Okay, this one is 58 by 37. And, well, I'll give you a brief rundown. This is titled The Earth is Round, 1951. Well, about 120 years ago, maybe it was 115 years ago, 1913, the Armory Show was organized and presented here in New York. I drive by the Armory, I think it's 27th Street near Park Avenue, quite often. And, well, Picabia was curated into the show, and he was one of the, as a matter of fact, he was the only European avant-garde artist that showed up for that, and he became kind of a little media superstar for about 6 months, and ended up getting a show with Alfred Stieglitz at the, I believe it was the 291 Gallery, and I think he spent about 6 or 8 months here, and was making contacts with a lot of the Stieglitz circle. Georgia O'Keeffe, Charles Demuth, and those people. It's composition 1947, Oil on Cardboard. Well, Picabia eventually goes back to France just in time for the beginning of World War I. And, well, he was from a pretty upper-class family. I believe his father was Spanish and his mother was French, but he was drafted, and back in those days you kind of felt like you had a military obligation, especially if you were of the higher classes, to be serving in the military during the war. And so Picabia was actually working as a chauffeur for a general. This is really nice. One of the things I do love about Picabia is his kind of brusque, urgent brushwork. This is titled The Joy of Blindness, Oil on Wood, 1946 to 1947. 59 by 37. So that's 5 by 3 feet, something like that. Anyway, Picabia was sent supposedly to Cuba to get molasses for the war effort, and he had to stop over in New York, and he went AWOL and decided he was going to stay in New York and hang out. And at that point, his good friend Marcel Duchamp was here, and probably over the next 6 or 8 months, these two got together and started some what has been known as the proto-Dada events, activities, and they were doing a lot of very experimental things and kind of tweaking the local art community. Also, I would say that Yeah, these frames really change your perception of what you're looking at. Thought this was a real fun little painting. It's titled In Relation to the Virtues, 1949. 39 by 31. So, I guess Picabia's wife eventually comes to New York, tracks him down, tells him he's got to come back to France. He doesn't come back. He and some other people, other artists, went and formed a little colony in Barcelona, I believe, for 6 or 9 months, something like that. During that same period, he was having a lot of problems with alcohol. I understand he also smoked opium, some other things, and so by 1918, 1919, he was in pretty bad shape, and he was still an expat. He didn't go back to France because he was afraid of what was happening. But the war was coming to an end, and he ended up going to Zurich to like a rehab clinic. And, he met the Dadaists, the Zurich Dadaists, and I think it was maybe Tristan Tzar that reached out to him and got him hooked up with that crew. It's titled She Dances, 1948. Okay, I haven't seen this piece before either, but it kind of relates to some of his famous pieces that he was doing about the time of the Armory Show. And also I think that he might have been riffing on some Picassos from the 30s. What does it say here? Oil on wood, 68 by 57. Oh, this is another piece that I haven't seen before. Thought was really interesting. It's titled First Seek Your Orpheus. This is oil on canvas. It says it's 70 by 66, but I would say that's more like 70 by 32, 34 maybe. Well, about the same time, Picabia is deciding that Dadaism is the new groovy thing. He'd been talking to Andre Breton for 2 days straight, and at some point the midwife came in and said, man, take it outside, guys. We got some heavy things happening here in the bedroom. You know, your wife is gonna have a baby in the next couple of hours. Maybe you better take your plotting and about Dadaism somewhere else. And some of these late dark abstract pieces are fascinating. And I think the other thing that's interesting is there's a lot of stuff underneath these, so Picabia had no nostalgia for some of his older paintings. He just paint over them, and you can actually see where some of this is a cracked painting underneath the painting. Okay, here is a wall of what they're calling the dot paintings, or the point paintings. This is titled The U, oil on cardboard mounted on plywood, 36 by 26 inches. Well, fast forward. Francis Picabia is one of the superstars of Dadaism. He ends up getting into a tuffle with some of the other people like Tristan Tzara and other people who were trying to exploit the whole Dada thing. So he kind of denounces them and sort of goes on his own way. But about that time is the same time that, I guess it was 1922, he actually said Dadaism is over. And Andre Breton launches Surrealism and kind of drafts many of the Dadaists to his cause. So you got Jean Arp, I guess Duchamp was kind of on the edge. It's titled Double Sun. Also, this is an amazing painting. Anyway, at some point, Picabia kind of gets tired of the whole Parisian art scene, the surrealism and all the nasty political backbiting that was going on among some of these people, and takes off and goes to live in the south of France with his wife and his mistress and his children. No kidding, you can look at this and see that there's something underneath there. Stylistically, he was working in several different things during this period. One of them that I appreciate was called the mechanomorphs, which was kind of like mechanical illustrations from popular mechanic books and things that he would do, and then he would tile them after some of his friends or acquaintances. This is titled Symbol. Another painting that I've seen reproduced many times. And it's great to see this in real life. So this is 40 by 34 inches. And also, Picabia could be a pretty nice, pretty juicy colorist when he wanted to be. So, besides the mechanomorph paintings, portraits, he has also started doing some, what they call the monster paintings, which are fantastic, very fun. Some of them he's using a lot of collage stuff, straws, buttons, plastic flowers and things. This is called Untitled. Now, as I understand it, these dot paintings were all done for a show that he was invited to have. It's 1949, 1950. And the irony of the dot was that it was like a period. This is supposed to be the sort of the end of his career, but it wasn't. Oh God, there's a lot of very subtle stuff going on in here. And again, the frame changes a lot. This is titled The Sky. Oil on wood. 30 by 25. So during his time in the Côte d'Azur, he also started doing what's known as his transparency paintings, which were based on a lot of classic heroic paintings, Greek sculpture, Italian Renaissance paintings. And he did that for many years. And then he started doing something that was really outrageous. He started doing what I call his beefcake paintings. God, you can almost see a face in there, right? Or his cheesecake paintings, which were kind of based on softcore pornography. And a lot of people thought that was like really beyond the pale. And also they were thinking that at the same time he was kind of playing up to the Nazis during the occupation. This is titled The Blue Egg. It's all on canvas 25 by 21. I wonder what they call these late pieces that are look kind of sculptural, and there's a lot of scumbling and shading and molding of spaces in a very kind of basic way. Somebody's telling a joke. It's titled Untitled, 1945, oil and canvas, 23 by 19. Okay, I think we saw this show uptown last fall at the David Nolan Gallery, I believe. And yeah, I guess there's only so many of these Picabias floating around, although I saw a YouTube video of Michael Werner talking about his first purchase of a Picabia. I guess it was in the early 70s, and somebody called him up and said, come to Paris, we've got a Picabia if you'd like to buy it, and it was a couple $1,000. Yeah, Picabia's got a very unique sense of the materials. This is titled Invitation. Oil on cardboard mounted on canvas. 25 by 21 inches. And I think during this period also he was kind of trying to forge a new path somewhere between abstract expressionism and surrealism. And he had his unique approach to both of them. I'm looking at this and thinking, this looks like a pelvis bone or something, maybe. Anyway, so he leaves the Côte d'Azur, comes back to Paris, I guess in the late 40s after the war. At some point, I think he was even arrested by the French police in Mougins, I think was where he was at, and was charged with being a Nazi collaborator. I think they might have kept him in jail for a week or two, and then they let him go for several reasons. One of them was that he still had heart problems and some other health problems. This is titled, By Acting We Forget. And again, he's got a great feel for the black background colors. Anyway, he comes back to Paris, retreats to his family's house, which is, I think it's near Place de la Concorde, so he's right in downtown Paris. He continues painting, and I guess he was a real kind of a bon voyant, and liked to go out to nightclubs and listen to jazz musicians and hang out with his friends and drink and smoke and all those things. Okay, so this is the ancillary gallery. So this is untitled, oil on wood, 19 by 14 inches. Well, I think Picabia passed away in something like 1953, and a lot of people never really considered him a serious painter. A lot of art historians always thought he was kind of a sycophant, at least some of them did. Other people loved him and thought he was a real badass, bad boy, which is kind of my appreciation of him. I did post a video of a Picabia exhibition. It was actually two gallery exhibition. Michael Werner and 1900 and 2000 gallery, something like that. And it was a show of women. I think the title of the show was La Femme, and it had some of his cheesecake paintings. This is a wonderful piece. It's titled, untitled, 1947, Oil on Cardboard. But there are textural things about this that are just so juicy. Anyway, I spent a lot of time. I pedaled my bike all the way uptown to the Upper East Side. I spent at least an hour and a half just videoing the Michael Werner part of the show. I got some really good music. I edited it all together and posted it on YouTube, and they shut me down and also denied my appeal. And YouTube, they don't really tell you much. Evidently, it was too racy for YouTube. The ironic thing is that I eventually went back and looked at other Picabia videos, and virtually almost all of the pieces that I had in mind had already been posted and been up on YouTube for years, and nobody had bothered to take that down. This is untitled 1948, oil on cardboard, 28 by 19 inches. So theoretically, YouTube has a dispensation policy. So if you're doing work that involves scientific documentation, educational things, or fine art, theoretically they can give you a little dispensation so that you can show parts of bodies that might be considered to be too racy for the general public. But they've got AI doing a lot of this stuff, and I'll tell you, and I'm sure Picabia would agree with me, you do not want AI deciding what is good art and what is bad art, or who is an important artist and who isn't. This is composition 1947. (28 by 23). Well, I think another interesting thing is very famous, very powerful dealer named Leo Castelli, who Michael Werner actually has his gallery in his old gallery space up on 77th Street. In Leo Castelli's first show in New York, 1957, he had a Picabia painting in the show, and I think that, he introduced people like Jasper Johns, Robert Rauschenberg, Andy Warhol, a lot of those American pop artists or neo-Dada artists to the paintings of Picabia. So this composition 1950, oil on canvas, 24 by 19. And again, you know, these are just such goofy little forms. They're so simple. And yet, they kind of somehow end up getting stuck in your brain. Also, like I said, interesting color. Brown, light blue, black, and yellow ochre. Anyway, this has been James Kalm reporting on Francis Picabia, Eternal Beginnings, here at Hauser Wirth in Chelsea. You can like this, share, link it up to all your social media sites, and you can leave your thoughts, ideas, comments, criticisms, reviews, and suggestions below. And we hope that YouTube doesn't decide to cancel this view of Picabia. And in the 19 years that we've been doing the Kalm reports, we just ask you, as always, to say thank you, Kate. Oh, yeah. Woo! Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.